Well, hello, folks. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. It's still 4th of July weekend here while I'm doing this. And this is episode 12 of the leaky roof on the Leprechaun. And at the end of episode 11, if you recall, I had all that white tape up on the roof, and I got all the way around the edges and the front, and I was pretty tickled that I beat the rain. Well, the rain really came down. We had a very wet 4th of July. Lightning and thunder and lots of precipitation. And I've got good news and bad news. The good news is, well, as you can see behind me, my new ceiling material is dry. Looks like I have just a bit of a leak right there. I've got to go figure out where that came from. But for the most part, the ceiling's in pretty good shape. So I need to get around up top and see where that one spot leaked through. And the bathroom ceiling is still looking in good shape. That different colored board right there scared me for a second. But the bad news is that part up in the front that I said had a pretty bad depression because it had some structural damage. Well, it pooled a lot of water and it found its way inside. You can see that's dripping, and luckily I stuck this tub underneath and you can see all the water that it collected. And I'm pretty sure most of it's from just right there at the forward edge of that vent. So I'm going to have to take that apart. And I just need to go up on top and figure out a few things. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take all of this section out and let it dry out. Then we'll see what we need to do. Well, I discovered where the leak was, and it was actually several of them. Those places where I had patches over the where the pedestals for the old railing went that I removed. Where the patches were sitting, where the new tape lapped over the top of them, the water was leaking in past along the seam. Anyway, I removed some of the tape. I removed all the tape around the refrigerator vent, and I added a new strip of tape down both sides, so that's a lot thicker. And let's see if you can get a look at where the patch was. It now covers fully along the edges, so it's sealed up. And I went ahead and, like I said, removed all the tape around this and went in and went around underneath with Dicor, the lap seal, and I think I've got it pretty well sealed now. Besides the leak that I had that was about right here that got inside and got that little chunk of ceiling wet, there was some water seeped in around the top of the fridge. So now I think I've got that pretty well taken care of. Well, I got carried away and took out some of the curtains and the vent screens, but I didn't get too far into it. It's just not in very good condition up here. Sorry about just showing you the back of my head, but I couldn't figure out how to get a better angle for you, so. And the dogs are playing out there, so. Well, I knew it was going to be a mess up there. This is more of what we had back here. Well, I guess I'll take out the ceiling first. Then I'll worry about the sides. I really didn't want to have to take the windows out to do this, but I'm afraid it's going to happen. Now, I guess I better take out the pad up here. Okay, now what I started to do was pull this down. And then I remembered the camera. just easier to handle that way. Well, there's water running in there. Maybe we can catch some of it. I think I'm just going to let that run for a little bit, do something else for a while. I'll take a little coffee break. Thought I'd see if I could pull this really wet crap out. Maybe. That's not ply like the rest of the ceiling was, and it's because it has a curve right here, but they used a kind of papery cardboard stuff, and it lasted a lot of years, but water doesn't work very well underwater, or cardboard doesn't work very well underwater, so Now, before I tear any more of that out, I'm going to show you what I think might be my biggest problem with the structural integrity of the front part of the roof. They put a joint right there in the middle of the roof. That was not a good idea. Unfortunately, a lot of the other stuff looks pretty good. So, well, that's a little black from crap, but yep, there's another joint right here. We're going to replace some of this with solid wood. Clean it up, dry it out, put it together, and make it more better. Huh. Well, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It'll look better with new wood in there, though. Okay, with that figured out, I think it's time to just rip and tear. It is just paper after all. I'm not real sure what the purpose of this was, other than to hold up that piece of insulation right there. There's nothing structural about it. I am going to remove it at this point. Yeah. Well, folks, I don't know if you can tell how happy I am about these pieces not being black with rot. Another joint, and a big knot that goes all the way through right there. A joint. This is cracked. A joint. And a joint. That might be a solid piece. And another joint. A great big knot. Another joint right at the end. And a joint, and I might have already pointed that out. A joint and a joint. I may be replacing a bunch of pieces of wood in this, but that's okay. Like I said, we'll make it more better. It's just the way it goes. I'm going to go get more coffee. Well, as much as I hated to tear more of that tape I put on off, I had to not only take the molding strip off to access the vent, but I had to take all the vent screws out because they were still holding the wood in place. So now I can really get after tearing out the faulty framework. Okay, here goes the noisy part, some of the noisy part. Let's take a break while I get the sawdust out of my shirt. Much better. Well, I thought I was going to have to pry it. Apparently not. There's a screw up there. Whew. There's still a screw up there. Okay, did a little house cleaning. I've got the main structure of the innards of the roof up here taken out, all that rotten stuff. Now all I got left, I got to go in and clean up the ledge on both sides. So we have a ledge on both sides for the structural support of this beast. Well, folks, I'm going to call this the end of a video. Thanks for joining me again, and next time hopefully we're going to get into putting some new wood into this ceiling structure so we can get back up on top and put in another brand spanking new vent. And it's going to be a vent fan just like the other two. It's already been ordered. It ought to be here pretty quick. At any rate, like I said, thanks for joining me, and you all have a good one. Well, in case you didn't understand what I was talking about when I was telling you about the joints in the structural materials up in the ceiling, well, I was talking about this right here. This is a glued joint in a piece of wood that's supposed to be structurally sound, but with a lot of wear, a lot of vibration, and a lot of moisture, the joints are no longer sound. They do that. And that's what we had up in the ceiling, and why the roof was caved in. Another contributing factor is Coachmen put metal tubes through these structural pieces to run wires through, and the metal kept the staples like this from going through and poking into the wires and causing shorts. So it's a good idea, but it's not a good idea to place them right in the middle or adjacent to one of those joints like that. So this one not only was falling apart, it was jeopardized, for a lack of a better word, which there is one, by drilling a big hole right through that. Anyway, now we know why the camper roof was caving in. Not sure how I managed to do that whole thing without flicking a fly in my face.